So this question is another explain question. So again, you're going to be asked to make, because it's 6 marks, you're going to be asked to make at least 3 different points, but then explain them to get those 3 extras. Now, this question, because it's 6 marks, if you're talking about an ecosystem that's negatively affected, you should give a specific example. Okay, and that's the reason why some people didn't get full marks, because they weren't specific enough. Now, everyone in here that answered the question talked correctly about rainforests. So what I would say to you is, if you use the example of rainforests, that means that you could get into the second band of marks because you've given a generic location. If you then gave me an example, such as the Amazon rainforest, then you would be able to access the full marks. So make sure that you give a specific location, okay, not just a generic one. Now, if you're talking about the ways in which people interact negatively, the biggest reason that this is causing an issue is because of deforestation, which is what the vast majority of you did manage to talk about. So that would be enough. That information there would be enough to get you full marks in the question if you explained it correctly. Now, the first thing that I would talk about is deforestation. And you simply just have to give a reason as to why deforestation is happening in our rainforests. So my first sentence would probably be, humans are using the rainforest as a raw material So humans are using the rainforest as a raw material, I would say, for timber, palm oil, and crops. I would say they are being destroyed through deforestation. So you have got your process, your human interaction, you've got the reasons why it's you've got the reason how it's affecting your ecosystem, but what you haven't explained is how it negatively affects that ecosystem. So that's what you have to do next. Now, the biggest reason that this is negatively affecting your ecosystem is because it prevents it from being able to work any further. So you need to talk about the processes that it's negatively affecting. The first process that you can talk about is the water cycle. So what you can say is deforestation negatively affects, and try and use key terms, so you can say the hydrological cycle. Okay, now referring back to your mark scheme here, this is very often how the marks are awarded. So your 6 mark questions will be given in bands. Band 1 means you can't get beyond 1 and 2 marks. Band 2 will mean you can't get beyond 3 and 4, and Band 3 will be your 5 to 6. Now, they are very similar to each other, but they have quite important differences. So here, if you can give clear understanding, that means that you're explaining, not just describing. If you can be specific, so link to specific activity, we've done that already, so we're on our way to 4 marks. If you can then link to a named location, that's what you need to do next. So we haven't done that in our answer yet. So what you can do is you can say an example of this is in the Amazon rainforest. So So you've got your specific example in there. Now what you need to do is explain how this negatively affects the hydrological cycle. Talk about how it's broken that down. So if trees are removed from the rainforest, there will be no vegetation. Then remember, you have to link it to the processes in the water cycle. So that's interception. There will be no vegetation to intercept the water. Okay, now if there's no vegetation to intercept the water, this means that it's all going to fall to the ground. So that can increase flooding and increase soil erosion. So that's what we're going to write down next. So this will result in increased surface runoff, soil erosion, and increase the risk of flooding. Now that quite clearly is a negative impact on that ecosystem. Okay, we've used the key terms, we've used the key words within our water cycle and talked about how that can be broken down. Now we need to give a third example, because remember it's 6 marks, we need to make 3 points and extend them. Now you can use your knowledge from the previous question for this. So the nutrient cycle is the next part of our ecosystem that's negatively affected. So the nutrient cycle will also be negatively affected due to the loss of nutrient stores in biomass, which we looked at just now, and leaf litter, resulting in nutrients being leached out, which is a key term, of the soil. Due to increased rainwater reaching the forest floor. Okay, so we've talked about how that process will also be broken down. Now, many of you did include the loss of animal habitats in your response, which is a negative interaction, so you could conclude your answer with that. So you could say, whilst many physical processes are affected, human interaction such as deforestation or mining can result in the loss of animal habitats. Now, if you lose animal habitats, what this will impact on will be your food webs and your food chains, because you may lose your primary, secondary and tertiary consumers. So that would be how I finish my answer. Okay, so I would say if animal habitats are destroyed, food chains may break down to, or should say due to, the loss of either primary, secondary or tertiary consumers.